The air around Anita felt heavy as she stood at the graveside, watching her father's coffin being lowered into the earth. The people surrounding her whispered softly, offering condolences, but Anita barely heard them. She felt numb. First, she had lost her mother, and now her father. At 15, Anita was alone in the world. The house that had once been filled with love and laughter now felt empty and cold. The walls seemed to close in on her, reminding her of all she had lost. The village offered no comfort, only painful memories. There were no family members left to lean on, and Anita knew she couldn't stay there forever. She decided to leave, to go to the city where she believed opportunities would be waiting for her. With a small bag of belongings and the last bit of money her father had saved, Anita boarded the bus that would take her to a new life. The city was overwhelming. The noise, the crowds, the towering buildings. It all felt like a different world. For the first few days, Anita wandered the streets, searching for work. She knocked on doors, asking if anyone needed help, but the city wasn't kind to someone as young and inexperienced as she was. As the days passed, her money began to run out. The hope she had brought with her started to fade, and fear took its place. She spent nights on park benches, shivering in the cold. Hunger gnawed at her stomach, and exhaustion weighed on her body. She knew she was running out of options. One evening, while sitting on the sidewalk, a woman approached her. She was older, with heavy makeup and a confident air about her. The woman looked down at Anita, her eyes scanning the young girl's weary face. "You look lost," the woman said. "What's your name?" Anita hesitated, but eventually answered. The woman introduced herself as Rose and asked why Anita was sitting alone on the street. With no one else to talk to, Anita poured her heart out. She told Rose everything, about losing her parents, about leaving the village, about how she had hoped for a better life in the city. Rose listened patiently, her expression softening as Anita spoke. "There's a way to survive in this city," Rose said after a pause. "It's not easy, but you'll make money, and you won't be hungry anymore." Anita knew what Rose was offering, but the hunger in her stomach and the desperation in her heart made it hard to refuse. Rose led her to a part of the city where the nights were long and filled with secrets. Anita stood with the other women, waiting. It was a life she had never imagined for herself, but she told herself it was only temporary. She just needed to survive. Anita's new life was one she had to learn quickly. The men came and went, each one leaving a little more of her soul behind. The shame weighed heavily on her, but she told herself that she had no other choice. Each night was the same. She felt herself growing colder inside, disconnecting from the girl she used to be. Despite everything, she managed to make a friend. Her name was Grace, a lively girl with a sharp wit and a bright smile. Grace had been in the city longer and knew how to navigate its dark corners. The two of them became inseparable. Anita told Grace everything, her fears, her hopes, and the secrets of her past. But what Anita didn't know was that Grace wasn't as loyal as she seemed. Hidden beneath Grace's smiles was jealousy, a quiet envy that grew as Anita became more confident, more successful in their line of work. Anita didn't notice the little digs Grace made, the way she sometimes laughed a little too hard when things went wrong. To Anita, Grace was the only person she could trust in the city. They spent their nights together, and when the mornings came, they shared their stories over cheap meals. It was during one of those nights that Anita met Daniel. Daniel appeared different from the other men who approached Anita. He wasn't loud, and he didn't look at her the way the others did. There was a kindness in his eyes that made her heart skip a beat. He wasn't a customer, he was just a man walking by, curious about the girl sitting alone in the bar. They began talking, and soon Daniel asked Anita out for coffee. At first, Anita was hesitant. Her life was complicated, messy. But something about Daniel's gentle nature drew her in, and she agreed. Their coffee dates turned into dinners, and before long, they were inseparable. For the first time in years, Anita felt seen. Daniel didn't know about her past, and she was too afraid to tell him. She didn't want to ruin the one good thing she had found in the city. As their relationship deepened, Daniel proposed. Anita was overjoyed. She had finally found love, someone who cared for her, someone who made her feel whole again. She imagined a future where her past no longer mattered, where she could leave behind the streets and build a life filled with happiness. But Grace was watching. The jealousy she had hidden for so long began to bubble to the surface. Grace had always been envious of Anita, her beauty, her strength, her ability to find love, and now seeing Anita so happy made Grace's envy unbearable. Grace knew everything about Anita's past. She had heard all the stories, all the secrets. Grace paced back and forth in her tiny apartment, her mind racing. She couldn't believe how things had turned out. Anita, the girl she had once pitied, was now living the life she had always dreamed of. Grace had watched as Daniel, the man Anita had fallen in love with, treated her with such care and tenderness. It gnawed at her, filling her with envy. One evening, as Grace sat with Daniel at a cafe, the jealousy she had been holding on to slipped out. They had been talking casually, but the bitterness in her voice was hard to hide. She leaned closer to Daniel, her eyes narrowing slightly as she spoke. "You know Anita wasn't always like this," Grace began. "She used to, well, she did things to survive. She slept with men for money. You probably don't know the full story." Grace expected Daniel to be shocked, to look at her in disbelief, but Daniel leaned back in his chair, his expression calm and steady. Grace's heart raced, expecting to see the horror in his eyes. But to her surprise, he sighed softly and nodded. "I know," Daniel said, his voice gentle but firm. "Anita told me everything." Grace blinked, stunned into silence. Her mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. She had been so sure that this secret would destroy their relationship. How could he be so calm about it? Why didn't he leave her like other men would have? "She told me the day before yesterday," Daniel continued, his eyes softening as he spoke. "I love her, Grace. I love her for who she is, not for her past. She did what she had to survive, and I respect her for being honest with me." Grace could feel the shame creeping up her neck, the realization of what she had tried to do hitting her like a tidal wave. Her plan had backfired completely. She had wanted to ruin Anita's happiness, but instead she had only proven how strong their bond was. Her jealousy, her bitterness, it had all been for nothing. I'm sorry," Grace stammered, her voice trembling. "I didn't mean to cause trouble. I don't know what I was thinking." Daniel looked at her for a long moment before nodding. "It's okay, Grace." But as Grace walked away that evening, her heart felt heavy. She couldn't shake the anger, the bitterness. Why wasn't it her? Why had Anita found someone like Daniel while she remained alone, stuck in the life she hated? 2 days before the wedding, Grace found herself at the bridal shop with Anita. Anita was trying on her wedding dress one last time, making sure everything fit perfectly. As she stepped out of the changing room, wearing the dress that would make her a bride in just a few days, Grace felt a surge of uncontrollable anger. Anita looked beautiful, radiant even. The dress fit her like a glove, and she beamed as she turned to Grace, her face glowing with excitement. "What do you think, Grace? Does it look okay?" Grace's chest tightened. That should be me. Why her? Why not me? She forced a smile, nodding. "You look beautiful, Anita." But inside, Grace's heart was burning with jealousy. Every compliment, every smile only fueled her rage. She couldn't bear to see Anita happy. It wasn't fair. Anita had taken everything. Daniel, the life Grace had always dreamed of, the happiness she felt she deserved. Grace could feel the bitterness eating away at her, turning into something darker. That night, unable to sleep, Grace's mind raced with hateful thoughts. She replayed the image of Anita in that wedding dress over and over again, each time feeling the sharp sting of envy. She knew what she had to do. Driven by jealousy and anger, Grace went out into the night, her footsteps quick and determined. She found a small, dimly lit shop and bought a bottle of acid. Her hands trembled as she held it, but her mind was made up. If she couldn't have happiness, then neither could Anita. Grace arrived at Anita's house just past midnight, her heart pounding in her chest. She wore a mask to cover her face, her hands gripping the bottle tightly. She rang the doorbell, and after a moment Anita opened the door, her face full of confusion as she looked at the masked figure in front of her. Before Anita could react, Grace threw the acid at her, watching in horror as Anita screamed in pain, clutching her face. The sound of her cries echoed in the night, but Grace turned and ran, disappearing into the darkness, her heart racing with both fear and guilt. She had done it. She had taken her revenge. Anita lies on the floor, tears streaming down her face, her hands shaking as she touched her burning skin. She could barely see, her vision blurred by pain and tears. Everything she had ever wanted, everything she had dreamed of, was slipping away from her in that horrifying moment. Anita was rushed to the hospital, her body trembling from the unbearable pain. Her screams echoed in the ambulance as the paramedics tried to calm her down. At the hospital, the doctors worked quickly to clean her wounds. The acid had done its damage, but miraculously, when it was thrown at her, Anita had instinctively turned her head slightly to the side, saving her eyes from being severely burned. After hours of treatment and careful monitoring, the lead doctor emerged with news. "She's very lucky," the doctor said, his voice serious but calm. "The acid didn't get into her eyes, and although there's some scarring, it won't be permanent. With proper care, her face should heal in about 2 months. It's going to be a long process, but she'll recover." Daniel felt an overwhelming sense of relief wash over him. He hadn't realized how much he had been holding his breath until that moment. Tears of gratitude filled his eyes as he thanked the doctor. Anita would be okay. The next few days were hard for Anita. Her face was bandaged, and the pain was still intense, but the doctor's words gave her hope. She could barely believe that she had escaped such a terrible fate. If the acid had hit her directly, she might have lost her sight or been disfigured forever. Still, the emotional pain lingered. Who would want to hurt her like this? She thought about the upcoming wedding and felt a deep sadness in her heart. Daniel visited her every day, bringing flowers and sitting by her side, encouraging her to stay strong. He made the decision to postpone the wedding, assuring her that they would reschedule once she had fully recovered. "We'll get through this," Daniel whispered one evening, holding her hand gently. "The wedding can wait. What matters is that you're going to be okay." Anita nodded, grateful for his support, though a part of her still felt shattered. Who could have done this to her? The thought haunted her every waking moment. A week after the attack, Grace came to visit Anita in the hospital. Her face was covered in concern, and she acted as though she was deeply upset by what had happened. She hugged Anita, careful not to touch her bandaged face, and sat by her bedside, her eyes wide with fake sorrow. "Oh, Anita," Grace exclaimed, shaking her head. "I can't believe this happened to you. Who would do something so evil? I hope the police catch the person responsible." Anita stared at her, feeling a strange sensation in her stomach. There was something off about Grace, but she couldn't quite put her finger on it. Still, she pushed the thought aside, not wanting to believe that her best friend could have anything to do with the attack. "They're investigating," Anita said softly, her voice raspy from the painkillers. "The police are trying to find out who did this. I don't know why anyone would want to hurt me." Grace leaned in closer, her voice lowering to a conspiratorial tone. "Why don't you just tell the police to stop investigating? You should focus on your recovery. Let God deal with the person who did this. Whoever they are, they'll get what they deserve. Don't stress yourself with the investigation." Anita blinked, surprised by Grace's suggestion. Stop the investigation? But they're trying to help. They're doing their best to find out who did this to me. Grace sighed, shaking her head. "I understand, but maybe it's better to leave it in God's hands. You've been through so much already, Anita. You don't need the added stress. Let the police stop digging. Whoever did this will be punished by a higher power. You just need to heal and move on." Anita thought about it for a moment, unsure of what to say. Grace's words made sense in a way, but something didn't sit right with her. Why was Grace so eager to stop the investigation? Shouldn't she be encouraging her to find justice? Anita glanced at Grace, who was still cursing the unknown perpetrator, saying things like, "May God punish that wicked person, and they will never know peace." But the way Grace's eyes darted around the room, the forced look of anger on her face, made Anita feel uneasy. Something was wrong, but she couldn't quite grasp what it was. "Maybe," Anita mumbled, still uncertain. "I'll think about it." Grace nodded quickly, smiling brightly as if she had convinced Anita. "Good. You need to focus on your health and the wedding. Everything will be okay." As Grace left the hospital, Anita lay in bed staring at the ceiling. The pain was still there, but her mind couldn't stop replaying the strange interaction with Grace. Why did she feel like Grace wasn't being entirely honest? The doubt gnawed at her, growing stronger with every passing minute. At the police station, Daniel sat across from the officers, anxiety knotting in his stomach. He couldn't shake the image of Anita's burned face from his mind. He needed to know who had done this to her. "Mr. Daniel," one of the officers said, looking serious, "we've been reviewing the case. Unfortunately, we have some bad news." Daniel leaned forward, his heart racing. "What do you mean?" "There are no CCTV cameras on the street where Anita lives," the officer explained, "and the camera in her house had been disconnected the day before the attack. We can't see who did this." Daniel felt like the ground had dropped from under him. No, that can't be. How can we find out who did it?" "We're doing our best," the officer said, trying to sound reassuring. "We'll speak to neighbors and see if anyone saw anything unusual. But without any video evidence, it will be difficult." Daniel ran a hand through his hair, frustration boiling inside him. There must be something more you can do. This was a terrible crime. "We understand," the officer said, "but we have to follow the leads we have. If you hear anything, or if anyone reaches out to you with information, please let us know." Feeling helpless, Daniel left the police station and headed back to the hospital. As he walked, he thought about Anita and how she had been through so much already. When he reached her room, he found her awake, her face bandaged, but her spirit unbroken. "Daniel," she called weakly, trying to sit up. He rushed to her side, taking her hand gently. "How are you feeling today?" "I'm okay, I guess," she said with a small smile. "They said I'll heal, but it hurts a lot." "I'm so sorry this happened to you," he said, his voice filled with concern. "I went to the police today. They have no leads." Anita looked down, sadness filling her eyes. What if they never find out who did this? "Don't worry," Daniel said firmly. "I won't stop searching. I will do everything I can to find the person who hurt you." Anita squeezed his hand, grateful for his support. "Thank you, Daniel. You've been so good to me. I don't know what I'd do without you." "Just focus on getting better," he urged. "We'll get through this together." As he sat by her bedside, he promised himself that he would find the person who had caused Anita so much pain, no matter what it took. He couldn't let her suffer in silence. Daniel sat on his bed, staring at the wall, his mind racing with thoughts about Anita and the horrific incident. Just then, there was a knock on his door. It was Grace. "Hey, Daniel," she said, stepping into the room with a sympathetic expression. "I heard about Anita. I just wanted to come and check on you." "Thanks, Grace," he replied, not really in the mood for company. "I heard they might fly Anita abroad for surgery. That sounds expensive. Are you sure you want to spend so much money on her? What if her face never gets better?" Daniel felt anger rising inside him. "What kind of friend are you? Anita is suffering, and you're worried about money." "I just don't want you to waste your money on someone with a dirty past," Grace said. "You could be with someone better, someone like me." "Leave my house. I don't want to hear this from you. You are a wicked friend. I've started to suspect you. Be careful," he warned. "Get lost, Daniel. You're ugly, and I don't even like you." He slammed the door behind her, feeling a mix of relief and frustration. He couldn't believe how selfish she was being. He turned back to his thoughts of Anita, knowing he needed to be there for her. The next day, he visited Anita at the hospital. When he entered her room, she looked a little better, but was still in pain. A smile lit up her face when she saw him. "Daniel, I'm glad you came." "Of course, I'm here for you," he said, sitting beside her bed. "But I need to tell you something important." "What is it?" "Be careful of Grace. I'm starting to suspect her." Anita looked puzzled. "What happened? Did something happen with her?" "It's nothing I can prove yet, but something feels off. Just be cautious, okay? Don't let your guard down around her." "I will," Anita promised, though doubt lingered in her eyes. "Thank you for looking out for me. It means a lot." They spent the rest of the day talking, and Daniel felt a sense of hope. Even amid the pain, he could see Anita's spirit shining through. But the worry about Grace gnawed at him. What was she capable of? And how far would she go to destroy the happiness they were building together? As he left the hospital, Daniel felt determined to keep Anita safe. He would do whatever it took to protect her from anyone who might want to hurt her, especially Grace. Anita was flown abroad for her surgery, and it went wonderfully. When she returned home, her face looked completely normal again. The scars from the acid were gone, and she was as beautiful as ever. Happiness filled her heart, and she felt she could finally put the past behind her. One afternoon, while Daniel was at work, Grace decided to visit Anita. Upon entering the house, she was shocked by how stunning Anita looked. Jealousy stirred inside her, twisting her stomach. "Wow, Anita, you look amazing." Grace forced a smile. "Thank you, Grace. I feel great," Anita replied, her eyes shining with joy. Grace masked her envy and asked, "I heard you and Daniel are getting married soon. Are you really sure about that?" "Yes, we are. Daniel has been so supportive. I love him," Anita answered confidently. Grace's smile faded slightly. "I hope you know what you're getting into. When you were gone, Daniel tried to sleep with me." Anita felt her heart drop. "What? Why would you say that?" "I'm just trying to look out for you," Grace said, her eyes wide. "I didn't let him, but you need to know what kind of man he really is." Anita felt a surge of anger. "I don't believe you. Daniel loves me. Why would he want to hurt me like that?" Grace shrugged, pretending to be sincere. "You should think about it. It's not too late to turn down the marriage. You deserve better than someone who might betray you." Confusion and hurt washed over Anita. "You're supposed to be my friend. Why are you saying this?" "I'm only trying to help you. You can still make the right choice," Grace insisted. Anita shook her head, overwhelmed by doubt. "I need to talk to Daniel when he gets home. He will explain everything." "Just be careful," Grace warned. "I would hate to see you get hurt." After Grace left, Anita sat down, her mind racing. She wanted to believe in Daniel and their love, but Grace's words lingered like a dark cloud. Was there truth in what Grace said? Did Daniel really try to betray her? When Daniel came home that evening, Anita confronted him. She needed to know the truth. After he settled in, she spoke up. "Daniel, I need to talk to you about something important," she said, her heart pounding. "What's wrong?" he asked, concerned. "Grace told me something today. She said you tried to sleep with her while I was away. Is that true?" Daniel's expression shifted instantly, his eyes widening in disbelief. "What? No, that's not true. Grace is lying." "Are you sure?" Anita asked, searching his face. "She said she refused you. I just need to know if there's any truth in this." "Anita, I swear I would never betray you. I love you. I've been waiting for you to come back so we could start our life together," he insisted, his voice steady and sincere. Anita searched his eyes, feeling the warmth of his love. "I believe you, Daniel. But why would Grace say something like that?" "I don't know. I suspect she is jealous of what we have. She wants to drive a wedge between us," he explained. "Don't let her get to you. You're my future, and nothing will change that." Anita nodded, relief and determination flooding her. She wouldn't let Grace's jealousy ruin her relationship with Daniel. As the wedding approached, Grace could no longer contain her jealousy. The sight of Anita, happy and preparing for her big day with Daniel, was more than she could bear. Desperation clouded her mind as she thought of how to stop the wedding. One evening, Grace found herself walking to the same store where she had bought acid last time. This time, she wanted something stronger, something that would guarantee destruction. She walked in, and the store owner recognized her instantly. "What do you need this time?" he asked, eyeing her warily. "I need something stronger than the last time," Grace replied casually, trying to mask her true intentions. The man raised an eyebrow, sensing something wasn't right. "What do you need it for?" Grace quickly lied, claiming she needed it for a household problem. But the man wasn't convinced. He told her to come back the next day. As soon as she left, the store owner picked up the phone and called the police, reporting the suspicious behavior. He had heard about Anita's previous attack, and something told him Grace was up to no good again. Back at home, Grace waited anxiously for the next day, eager to pick up the stronger acid she believed would finally ruin Anita's life. But that night, her plans were shattered. The police arrived at her house unexpectedly, bursting in and arresting her. Shocked and terrified, Grace pretended she didn't know why they were there. She refused to speak at first, determined to keep her secret hidden. However, after hours of questioning, the police grew frustrated. They decided to use force, and after they beat some sense into her, Grace broke down. Tears streamed down her face as she confessed everything. She told them how she had planned to pour acid on Anita's face again, but this time she wanted something stronger because the last attempt hadn't caused enough damage. She admitted that her goal was to destroy Anita's beauty, to make her suffer and feel the pain of losing everything she loved. The police were stunned. They couldn't believe the level of hate and jealousy Grace harbored for her so-called best friend. They immediately informed Anita and Daniel about the plot. When Anita heard about Grace's plan, she was completely taken aback. "Grace? My best friend? I never imagined she would go this far," Anita said, her voice trembling with disbelief. Daniel shook his head. "I warned you, Anita. I told you to be careful, but you didn't listen. Now look at what she was planning to do." Anita felt a wave of guilt wash over her. She had trusted Grace, and now she was learning the truth in the most painful way possible. A few days later, Anita decided to visit Grace in jail, hoping to understand why her friend had turned against her so viciously. When she entered the cold, grey prison cell, she saw Grace sitting there, staring at the floor. At first, Anita felt pity for her, but when Grace looked up, all sympathy vanished. Instead of remorse, Grace's eyes burned with anger. "You think you've won, don't you?" Grace spat, her voice filled with venom. "You get everything, Anita. Everything good happens to you, while I'm left with nothing. I hate you. I hate you so much that I will do anything to make you ugly or even see you die." Anita stepped back, shocked by the intensity of Grace's hatred. "Grace, I never did anything to hurt you. We were friends." "Why do you hate me this much?" Grace scoffed. "Because you've always had it easy. You've always been the beautiful one, the one who gets all the love and attention. And now you're marrying Daniel. It's not fair. I was supposed to have what you have." Anita shook her head, saddened by how twisted Grace's jealousy had become. "God forbid, Grace. I won't let you continue down this path. I'll make sure you stay in jail for the rest of your life if I have to." Grace laughed bitterly. "Good luck with that." Anita walked out of the cell, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. It hurt to lose someone she had once considered her closest friend, but after seeing the darkness in Grace's heart, she knew there was no saving her. At the trial, Grace was sentenced to 10 years in prison for her actions. The judge condemned her cruelty and her plan to harm Anita once again. Daniel, who had been by Anita's side throughout the ordeal, vowed to make sure Grace stayed in jail for even longer if possible. He hired a team of lawyers to ensure that Grace wouldn't have an easy time. 2 months after Grace's conviction, Anita and Daniel finally got married. It was a beautiful and joyful ceremony, filled with love and happiness. As Anita walked down the aisle, she felt an overwhelming sense of peace. The shadow of Grace's betrayal no longer hung over her. She had chosen to move forward with her life, leaving behind the pain and embracing the future. At the reception, surrounded by family and friends, Daniel held Anita close. "We made it," he whispered into her ear. Anita smiled, tears of joy filling her eyes. "Yes, we did. And nothing will come between us now." Their wedding marked the beginning of a new chapter in their lives, one filled with hope, love, and the promise of a brighter future. The darkness that Grace had tried to cast over them had failed, and together Anita and Daniel moved forward, stronger than ever. Dear viewers, what lessons did you take away from this dramatic tale? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed the story, give us a thumbs up, share it with friends, and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest updates. Thanks for watching and stay blessed.